we're gonna start with a word prayer. Okay. Thank you for this morning. Thank you for this venue. Thank you for the nice security guard who brought everyone here. Also, thank Michael for booking this venue. Lord, as we share about the things that we might go through during this season of transition, Lord, may you just anoint me. May you also help us be alert, Lord, to what you are speaking to our hearts and to our situations. May you bless this morning, remove the sleepiness, hunger, if any, and help us look forward to the session. In Jesus' name, pray. Amen. Okay, guys, everybody, my name is Sean. So I'm the graduate staff for this program, GCF Young Graduate Ministry, and we're here for this C2C intro session. Okay, so every year we have this intro session for you to get to know more about this C2C thingy, what we are doing, also make new friends, and also see whether you want to continue the journey with us. Because it'll be a very fun journey. But as you all know, young adults are busy people, so sometimes they will say, wow, one whole year of commitment, wow, very scary year. Okay, so I'm here to tell you that it's not scary. It's not a very major commitment, but it's a very fun one. Okay, so today the session is called Good, Pleasing, Perfect. A living sacrifice in transition. So as you all know, this is the referring to Romans 12, verse 1 to 2. Okay, so later we'll be doing something related to that. Okay, but for now, the first thing we'll be doing is we do self-introduction. Okay, so we will do two kinds of introduction. One is the public one, okay, which is everybody will share with everybody, okay. And then after that, we have a in-depth introduction. So you just find someone that you don't know, and then just share a little bit about thoughts on existing, thoughts on transiting into work, especially, and also the excitement and any dreads that you are thinking about, okay. Just share what's comfortable, okay, because you're sharing to someone you don't know, okay. So don't need too detailed. Okay, so we'll start with the public one. Okay, so we just go one round. You share your name, your uni and CF if you are in one, okay, and also your current work status. Have you been working for how long, and also roughly what do you do for work? Okay, I will start. I'm from VCF in NUS. I studied business with a second major in sociology. Okay, so I've been in this job since 2020, and before that I was working in a different company. So I worked 5 years already. I graduated in 2017. Yes. Okay. Gerald. Okay. Thanks everybody for sharing. So now we will do the in-depth ones. Okay. So look, just randomly pair yourself up. Okay. Just share this like I give you like just 2-3 minutes. Okay. So don't need share so detailed. Okay. Just the draft gist. Okay. Please. The wind blows. Everybody stand up. 大风吹. Okay. Then just talk to somebody you don't know. Okay. If you you first met today, right? Then carry on. But please find someone you don't know. Ideally in pairs, if not enough, then in threes. Don't need move your back lah. Later you go back there. Okay, so for the sake of everybody who may not be very familiar with GCF, okay, so GCF is we and FES are sisters. Okay, so in the whole world, right, with all our FES movement, all the CFs in the world, right, generally the graduate ministry and the student ministry is part of the same organization, same family lah, live in the same house. Okay, but in Singapore and Malaysia, due to reasons that I'm not very familiar with, we are split lah as an organization. So when we had to do safe entry during the COVID, right, we have to save entry separately. So I have to save entry into GCF event, even though we are at the same venue. Okay, so to the government, we are different. Okay, but generally we do things together lah. Okay, that's why we had the graduation party that you've been to, and that we are good friends. Okay, our logo looks like this. As you can see, it looks kind of old, but we are old lah. We were founded in 1952. Yes. Then FES came after us. Okay. Okay. So how this C2C Young Grad Ministry came about was because I think at some point in around 2018 when we first started, we saw that there was this a very big gap of no support for young graduates. Okay, so it was so glaringly obvious that we felt we had to do something about it. Okay, when I was as a student in VCF, so we also I was the exco that we started this standing committee ministry that talks about graduation. The name of the ministry is called Talking About Graduation, TAG. Okay, so yes, so after I graduated, so some of us were involved in that ministry as the exco. Then we continued to be involved in DC2C lah when we first thought about it and this formed it. Okay, so I think most of y'all will not have such dedicated platforms in church. Maybe you might have, your church is big enough, maybe there's like maybe a few sessions where they help you to talk about like how to be faithful in your as a working adult, maybe like in the transition wise, but probably it's not very dedicated. Maybe like half a year, maybe your CG is just people like you and that's it. Okay, but otherwise you are just like treated like everybody else who has worked 5, 10, 20 years. Okay, so we felt that that's why we need to do this because the church we felt it was not doing enough. Okay, so we call ourselves classmates to colleagues. And then as I mentioned, 2018 is when we first started the first pilot run now. Okay, so you are technically the, if you exclude the pilot run, you are the 4th batch of C2C running. Okay. Okay, so why is this so urgent? Okay, I think at this stage of life, when you first like 0 to 3, 4 years of working life, right? You are starting to build a permanent outlook on life. Okay, so what you go through during this 0 to 4 years of work, right? It is highly likely that it's going to have a great influence on how you view work, how you view life, how you view a Christian marketplace ministry is like, and therefore what it means to serve God and live a purpose-driven life. Okay. Secondly, you're also making consequential life decisions. Okay, you may decide to settle down, you may decide to buy a house, you may decide to immigrate. Probably not not immigrate, but you don't have enough money. Or you decided to change church, or you some people decide to backslide. Okay, or some people choose to receive Christ. Okay, whatever the case is, these life decisions that you make now, they are of different consequences as compared to in university when you choose, should I stay in hall, should I take this module, should I go exchange, should I take internship, it's quite different. Okay, and lastly, it's also the time where you will reform your community. So you will start to let go of some friends, you hold some friends tighter. As I mentioned, you may change church, you may find a life partner, you may break up with somebody or whatever, or you may move out of your house, then or leave your parents, or your parents may fall ill, your relatives may move in with you. Okay, a lot of things can happen, but at this stage, the people you tend to keep in these 0 to 4 years of your working life, you tend to hold them a lot more dearly, and probably they are the ones who will become sufficient for you in the long run. Okay, so why so serious? Because we want to do this because due to the fact that you're building a permanent outlook in life, right? If you actually just go through it on your own, there's a good chance that you may learn wrong or imbalanced conclusions about what happens to you. For example, your workplace treats you unfairly. You're like, oh, work is like that, so now I must take care of myself first, right? And that may spill over into how you view living. Like, oh no, I just take care of my family. My neighbor, too bad, sucks to be them. But it's true also that the workplace is not easy. Okay, so what you're learning is not a wrong conclusion. I mean, it's imbalance. It's not fully what God wants you to understand about the workplace. Okay. You may also be unaware or pressured to decide on certain consequential life decisions that you're actually not ready to make. So for example, like I have friends who they want to BTO. Then I'm like, oh, how long are you in the relationship? Oh, half a year. Huh? Then you want to BTO already? Why? Of course, BTO takes 5, 6 years. But then now got good location, we just try our luck. Then I'm like, oh, then what if you get it? Or get it? Wow, then must faster plan for very short. But 6 months only. So then should you have done it? I'm not saying yes or no, but I'm just saying if maybe they are not ready. Maybe they are financially not ready. Maybe there are other things in their life that it's more urgent than now. Okay, or maybe they feel like, oh no, I'm already 25, I should go and know exactly what I want to do in the future. Say, who tells you that? Why do you pressure yourself? But maybe some people should know, okay? Or maybe for some, there's already a path that they should take, but they don't want. Okay, so either way, the point is that sometimes at this stage of life where you just started 0 to 3, 4 years, right? Maybe there are some things you're still grappling with, but because you felt that everybody is doing it, you should do it, and then you get pressured to make a decision that maybe in the end you regret. Okay, lastly, because of life and work, sometimes it gets so tough that you say, okay, you know what, I have no more energy, I just go home, go work, go and eat, and at night want to relax over YouTube, I don't want to talk to anyone, I'm so stressed, Okay, then in the end, you may become isolated, you may let go of your close friends, you may not have energy to connect with anyone, you just want to be left alone because you're so stretched with dealing with difficult humans at the workplace or in life. Therefore, you say, it's just me and God. Or sometimes you don't want to talk to God, just leave me alone. Okay, so you might become isolated, and that usually makes things completely worse. Okay, so I think because of all these things, Okay, these are quite important, right? As you can see, but the cost of ending up here is when you get Christians who just become very bitter, burn out, don't want to go to church, don't care about God, want to do their own thing, being happy as a secular person. Okay, then I think you're in trouble. Okay. So I'm not here to scare you, but I just want to tell you that like this is, I've known many people who may not hit kena all three lah, okay, but even one of it is already quite hard. Okay, so at this point, since you have conveniently split yourself into groups of 4, we're gonna do an activity to share, okay, from your, these are from your campus experience, okay. You have started work, I guess you can, no, don't talk about work, still go back to campus, okay. So you can share, just share 2 of these 3 things, or 1 of these 3 things, okay, don't need to share all, no time. Okay, share 1 thing that you have learned from campus that has become a permanent worldview of your life now. This is how I think about the world now, and I think this is how I'm going to continue to think about the world, about life, about everything. Okay, or you can share about a decision with significant repercussions that you made in your uni that you think will have more lasting impact on your life lah. May not be forever lah. Okay, maybe in the next 3 years it's still relevant, a significant decision. Okay, and then lastly, the role of spiritual community in your life in campus. Okay, so how did you decide that, okay, this is the role they're going to play and I want to continue having this role? Okay. Okay, yes. So this one is now it's 11:13. It will take 15 minutes. No, that's a bit too long. 10 minutes. Okay. Okay. We hope you had a good time sharing. By the way, generally, C2C does a lot of it tended to be more interactive now. Okay, so we will try to encourage more talking and all this. But because today is today, I mean, okay, because today is the first session. I want it to be a bit more reflective, okay. So what we'll be doing now, okay, on top from this is now this is for yourself, okay. Don't need to share, okay. Take out your phone, then you can think about these things, okay. So how did all these things that you have discussed, these things how did all these things influence you, okay, in terms of your relationship with God, your community, and your prior experiences? Wait, let me rephrase that. Okay. So what I meant was, how did yes, correct. Sorry, I think I short-circuited because it's early morning. So how these things, right? How did they change and influence your relationship with God? Meaning, how did they grow your relationship with God? How they make you think about God? Okay. Secondly, how did they make you feel about your community? Christian or not, meaning your whole life, lah. Okay. So I mean, non-Christians do play a part in your life, maybe as your classmates, as your project mates, whatever, or your hall mates. Okay, but the Christian also play a part. Okay, so generally, how did all these things that happened prior to this make you feel about your community? And also, how did all these things that happen shape like your experiences, like when you view something new? Okay, so let's say you have a particular permanent worldview that is set in stone. So when you view future events, then you will think about those things through that lens. Okay, so for the next, we'll go through verse by verse, but we will not really go through the verse itself, but we'll have some reflective questions related to the verse, and then you will reflect on them. Okay, so I give for example. Okay, later I'll get that. Okay, I'll read the verse first. Okay, Romans 12. It's NIV. Okay, it's the font. It's not a strange new version. Okay, it's NIV. Okay, so Romans 12, 1-2. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. Okay, so we'll do this. Okay, we'll do verse by verse, and then I'll give you 2 reflection questions. Okay, just choose one and answer. Okay, I'll give you about 5 minutes. Okay, but if you want to think about the second one in your own time, that's fine. Okay, you can take picture or what. I will probably send you the slides anyway. Okay, but they are, I think, quite important. Okay, so here Paul says, I urge you, brothers and sisters. So I think the call that I say, who is his brothers, who is his sisters, and who is he to urge them? Okay, I take that and say, who are these brothers and sisters in your life that can urge you, and that when they urge you, you actually listen. At the same time, how did they become brothers and sisters? In Christ in Christ they became, but Paul is also the one who sowed the seeds of the gospel on these people, and they receive it, and they form a relationship with him. So there's a history. And now the history is continuing on, and then he continues to call them brothers and sisters and writes to them and wants to connect with them, wants to support and encourage them. So these are the two main points. Okay, who are the people how do your brothers and sisters become brothers and sisters? And how do you want to involve them in this next season in life? And also, who are these people? Then we'll move on to the next part. Okay, so the next verse says, in view of the mercies of God. Okay, so I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of the mercies of God. So when we think about the mercies of God, then already God did something for us, right? Undeserved mercy. So I think the questions that I want to pose it to you all is like, what are these mercies? In view of the mercies of God. So what are these mercies that you have received? Okay, and not just receive, but clearly and abundantly. I think sometimes, I mean, we are always receiving God's mercy, but sometimes it goes unnoticed. Sometimes we just like, oh, okay, that's nice, and then we don't forget about it, or we kind of forget about it. But what are those that you have received and you know that it's so clear to me that, and so abundantly that you never forget that this is what God's mercy looks like. Okay, think of this. What are these? The second question you can choose to answer is like, why will you refer to these things that you receive as mercies? Instead of like something, oh, I put in effort, I got it for a reward for my labor. I got it because I'm good at it. So why do you refer to these things that, do you refer to these things as mercies, or you actually look at them as something else? Okay. What is you own self get, then you won't call it mercy lah, you know. Okay, so again, we'll take about 5 minutes. Okay, so we go to the next part. So in view of the mercies of God, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. Okay, so the idea of a sacrifice, as in the OT, is like it's animal sacrifice, doves, cows, ox. Okay, so obviously you take a sacrifice, you kill it. That's why it's called sacrifice, so it's dead. So I think Paul first says a living sacrifice. It is a very striking image of what it means. Okay, so you bring yourself there on the altar, and you are killed again and again and again and again for some reason. Okay, sacrifice is living because it stays alive at the altar. It is an ongoing sacrifice. It's not a once done and done. Okay, but it continues on. So I think when we think about it, right, like, is that a very easy thing to do? Probably it's a lot harder than just doing it once, lah. Okay. At the same time, right, when you say it's a living sacrifice, is such a strange concept that you need to think. There are like two different words that you put together. It's like a fried ice cream, you know. It's like, oh, it works. It does work, right? If you ever eaten one before, it does work. But it's also a very strange thing until you understand what it means and what it's like. Okay, so the two questions is, historically for yourself, what was easier to sacrifice? Like, what is easy to sacrifice in your life? And what is very costly to sacrifice? It's quite different, right? What is easy to sacrifice, may not even call it sacrifice, just give law. Okay, but what really costs you sacrifice actually is a different ballgame altogether. Okay. Second question is, so in your life, when you sacrifice something, how do you tell God this is a dead sacrifice? You take it, then that's done. And this is a living sacrifice. That God, you take it again and again and again and again and again, and I will let you take it again and again. Okay, you can answer one of these two. Yeah, for another 5 minutes. Okay, there's just 3 more of this, and then we are done with reflecting for today. Okay, so just keep up. Okay, the next thing is the verse says, offer your body as living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God, and this is your true and proper worship. Okay, so I think when we say holy and pleasing to God, that means it's assuming that there was a non-holy, unholy, and non-pleasing stuff to God that we might have presented instead, or the Israelites have presented. That's why Paul mentioned this. At the same time, true and proper worship. Okay, so there is also the idea that like some things are worship, some things are not, or some things are not true and proper worship. Okay, so the two questions we also think about is, to you, right? What is the difference between worshiping God in one's life, as what Paul mentioned, as compared to doing Christian things? Because they may look very similar, but Paul clearly says there's a difference. True and proper worship. The second question is that, so were there any sacrifice you made or you neglected to bother making even with blemishes that is unacceptable even to yourself, you know? I mean, to God, all we offer is actually not very wholesome lah, you know, it always got blemish one lah, because we are just sinners. But some of these things are even you also when you offer, you feel bad. Like, oh, I don't think it's a good idea, but yeah, just whatever. Okay, so I think it's something to think about. Lah. Even to you, you cannot accept what more to God. Okay, so you can choose either of this. It's also 5 minutes. Okay. And after that, Paul says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So I think there's two parts here, conform to the pattern of this world. Second part, transform. Okay. So the two questions is pretty similar. How does the process of conforming to the world begin or look like for you? Okay, so generally, in some ways, wherever we are also conforming to our environment, which is the world. Can't help it. It doesn't make sense to us. So what does it look like? How do you know that you are already becoming like the world? Okay. Secondly, so by default, what is the reverse of that? How does the process of renewing your mind take place? How do you realize that, hey, yeah, my mind is being renewed today through this? So after that, Paul goes on to say, after you renew your mind, that then after you renew your mind, then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is. Okay, so test and approve. Okay, like how do we even test and approve, right? So one of the first thing we want to ask is like, how do you tell that God is speaking to you, like directly, like He tells you directly, wasting also indirectly through people, through what's happening in your life, through things, okay, things that you realize. Oh, okay, so you do that. Question one, and same time when you approve, right? How do you approve? Means you actually okay lah. Like, oh, okay, sure, God, I will agree with that. I'm okay with it. I'm good with that. But what if you don't approve, right? So do you find yourself often being unwilling, reluctant in hearing to what God is certainly speaking to you about? Means you know this is definitely what God is doing. This is definitely what God is saying. But I don't want Lee. I don't like Lee. I don't approve Lee. Okay, so are you like that? And if yes, why? Is it because it's usually about a particular thing that is important to you, or just you're a bit stubborn, or you don't really trust God, or you think you know better, or what? What? Okay. And this is the last one. And then we'll finish the reflecting part. So I think the whole exercise being through is something that requires, it is a reflection of like your adulting transition season. Okay, it requires a lot of reflecting, a lot of processing, and some of these questions, they're not particularly new to you. I'm sure you have encountered these verses and these questions in some form before, but at the same time, there are questions that we probably need to revisit now and then. Okay, so I hope that like when next time you look at this Romans 12, 1-2 verse, it's easy to read it just like that, but I hope some of these questions that I mentioned here, you will come to mind like, hey, how am I applying this verse, that verse? How is it real and important in my life? Okay, so it's quite key lah. Okay, so things like, especially like understanding what God wants you to do in this season could be like change job, start a relationship, or break off, or move out, or what. You need to know what God is speaking to you. Okay, and you also need to know if He's saying you. Usually, you need to tell how come that you're not listening. Things like conforming to the world, the workplace is gonna be very real, right? Because this is the way the SOP is like that lah. You just got to live with it. You're like, wow, cannot not lah. In that case, also if the marketplace is doing this to you, then how is your faith informing you to think the other way? Okay, and also like you can become a good devoted church member, but is it worship or you're just doing social things that happens to be Christian? Okay, are you still sacrificing things that you're not very satisfied with, even to sacrifice? It's very real because you let's say you don't have enough time, you just okay lah, God, I just do keep short lah. Doesn't mean it's wrong if you have no time and you try to do your best, but you just can't give the same effort if you have more time. But at the same time, you can become like, I just want to do lah. That's why I have no time. Okay, then that becomes an issue. Okay, or you become say, God, I also got sacrifice. I sacrifice A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but you actually may not have sacrificed the most important things to you. You sacrifice the ones that are easy. Then can you really say that I'm a living sacrifice? Okay, at the same time, you may just say, okay lah, last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I sacrificed you. Why you ask me to sacrifice again? Say, hey, no, but you're living sacrifice. Okay. Also, the mercies that you receive, the resources you receive, you may tend to attribute it to your own gains or your own abilities, or you just lucky, right? But maybe you may forget that they are actually mercies, mercies that you do not deserve. Okay, and also people, especially like you may just like, okay, whoever is near me is my friend lor. Whoever don't want to message me, don't want to talk to me, forget it lah. They already forget about it. Not true. They will still care, but sometimes they also consumed by life, so they also don't message you. Then you are the same, right? Then you say, wow, nobody care about me, I'm alone. Okay, then you start to just hang out with people who may not actually partly good influence to you, or you just forget about all the friendships that you have lah, and just go on your own way. That's also quite sad. And at the same point, those who know you more than, means they have a longer history with you, they are the ones who actually know you much better. And they're the ones who, when they say, hey, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't be like that, you'll be like, okay lah, I'll think about it. But if someone you barely know says that to you, they may be right, but you just don't want to listen. Because when we become older, we just think that we know better lah. It's true lah. Okay, so these are things that are all real even in your campus days, but I feel like in the working adult life, right, they become a lot more intense and significant. Okay, that's why I hope that you all continue to do this exercise, think about this verse along the way. Okay, so the next part, I just wanted to share with you some of my stories, okay, because I say so much, when you reflect so much, then this Sean, you never tell me anything about the transition. That's true lah, I have not yet, okay. So here is, I will share three parts of my life, and hopefully they give you some sensing of what it might look like lah, okay. So, money is the first part of adulting that I delved into when I first graduated, okay. So I graduated like end of 2017, so I took an extra sem. So my friends graduated in the June of that year lah. So they started work, but because they started work, then they also start to think about adulting stuff lah. Okay, so I have this one friend that like we are very good friends. So he graduated before me, and then when he's thinking about adulting stuff, then he said, hey, let's go do this together. Let's go do this together. So the first thing we did was we went for an investment course. Okay, and then it was okay lah. I mean, not bad. That was 2018. We were still young. We're still trying to figure things out. So I mean, we tried, and then there was ups and downs, both financially and emotionally lah. Okay, so we like, hey, this happened. Oh shit! Oh, this happened. Oh, so good. Then it was fun lah. Much more fun than doing alone lah. Cause at least you have someone to. Hey, you sure you know what you do? Say, oh, I don't know. Oh, they don't do lah. That kind of thing. But sometimes we still do strange things and make mistakes lah. So I think this went on for a while, and then eventually I got burned a few times lah. Okay, quite significantly. And then when I got burned, then usually when you get sick of something, you just don't think about it lah. You just go and look at the other parts of your life. Okay, and that's when I turned and I see, hey, actually God is doing a lot of other things in my life besides growing me in terms of financial maturity and wealth lah. Okay, and I think after that, right, I start to see money as a resource, not an achievement or like an endless pursuit lah. Okay, I think for me, cause I work in a Christian industry. Okay, now I'm a full-time minister lah. I mean, most of you will be aware that most full-time ministers don't earn a lot lah. Okay, so for me, I also came from a slightly more business-minded family. So I think it was always have this feeling that like, oh, money is a status of how well you're doing as an adult, working adult lah. Okay, so for me, I didn't have that cash pay, and I was from business school. So all my friends, when they meet, they will compare lah. Then I was like, oh, full-time minister earning, not say peanuts lah, but not a lot lah. Okay, and the most good thing is that we have no progression lah. We really here forever lah. Your pay is increased in inflation or less than inflation. So I mean, the pursuit of money at the start was as a resource, but I realized eventually it more becomes something like I do this to prove that I'm able, at least to myself lah and to my family. And therefore, of course, you pursue things with the kind of mindset usually doesn't turn out well lah. You make decisions that not very good. Okay, so when I finally realized that money is a resource, not achievement or pursuit, I became more willing to cut losses when I should, and also not be greedy when I should not be lah. Okay, so and I think that when we say money as servant, not must say no, you cannot serve money and God, right? I mean, we all know that lah, but actually, as a working adult, when it's not as simple as that lah. Like you consider a job A and job B, one has much higher pay than the other job. You cannot help but be interested. Also lah, right? You may not choose it, but it definitely draws you lah. Okay, and for valid reasons. But at some point, it does become a line to draw. Like, I pay you more, you work harder. I pay you less, you work less motivated. It's real, right? Okay, so it's something we know, but through this season, you probably learn it with your soul. Okay, it doesn't no longer become some head knowledge or just a heart emotion, but you need to be able to combine those two things and say that, okay, I learned this with my being, with my walk with God, with my soul, and then I can live like this. Doesn't mean I overcome all this completely, but definitely compared to when I first started in 2018, I think I understand better the role of money in one's life and working life. Okay, second thing, okay, so in 2017, before I graduated, I got together with this lady. 2017, yeah, 2017. So unfortunately, in 2019, I decided that, okay, actually, this is not going anywhere. We are not suitable. And then we decided to break up. Okay, so I think it was quite hard because it was my first relationship and lasted 2 years. Okay, and then it was from the student times to working adult times. Okay, so there's that the innocence of the school time romance that were built into it, such that when you transited together, it felt like, hey, you went through a lot already as a couple. Okay, but I think I started work first. Okay, and then my ex started, and then I realized that, okay, it wasn't very easy for me transition, but it was all right. But for her, it was horrible. Her transition to work was super bad. And then she started to have some emotion, cannot control emotions very well. And then I also having my own stuff to deal with. And then I couldn't cope with the end of the stuff. Okay. So there was a lot of conflicts and everything. And at some point I felt like, oh, this is horrible. It's really bad. Okay. And I think there were also other differences that made it feel like, oh, am I actually, we are both Christians, but I feel like we are like doing non-Christian dating. So it's really hard. But I think even so, I think God was with me and with us through the relationship. And I think he showed me exactly what love really means. And actually, when he showed me, then I kind of okay, but that's what it looks like. But it's not something I really okay. I think I agree. Okay, so there was this particular incident where basically she was having a terrible day at work, and then I was also having quite a difficult day in particular. Then she say blah blah blah. Then I say, okay, okay. Just we kind of argue because we're both like quite miffed and furious at our own life and each other. And then I just like, oh God, I cannot do this anymore. I just like, after I ended the call. And then God say, hey, you go and take care of her. I say, huh? I go take care of her, they won't take care of me. Say, I take care of you. You go and take care of her. Then I was like, I mean, cannot argue, right? God said this so clearly. I just like, okay, lor. So I dragged my very tired and fatigued and irritated self to her house, to her doorstep, and I ring the doorbell. And her brother opened the door. Hey, I said, is so around? Then he's like, you never tell her you coming? No, it's a surprise visit. Oh, then she happened to be around. Then she saw me, and she was quite happy. And then we hang out together. And then it was okay lah. It turned out to be okay lah. Although I was still quite tired, but at least we reconciled lah, not so angry anymore. Okay, so I think I think honestly this happened quite late on in the relationship when I was like, we were both of us quite tired about the whole thing. But I think when God did that, then I understand like what love means lah. Love is not putting yourself before your loved ones lah, but it does sacrifice and cost you something. So he said, I take care of her as I take care of you. I feel that was like, that's what we mean by we love with the love that God gives us lah. And we love because he first loved us. So but in the end, through that I see God, but I also realize that at the same time that we are not suitable lah. So you have to break off. But that's something I realize, and I think it might happen to some of you lah. Your relationship may not, the romance journey may not turn out very well. Maybe hinks and nicks, but through it, at least you learn what is love from God. Okay, and the last story I have is that about my spiritual family. So upon graduation in end 2017, I left church. I was from a big church, and I received Christ in like JC1 lah. So about 19 years old, 18 years old. So basically I was there for almost a decade lah. Okay. But eventually I left. I think there were a lot of issues with the leadership, and also what after going through CR, I felt like, hey, my church, the vision of the gospel actually quite narrow. I mean, not wrong lah, okay, just narrow. And I think I couldn't agree with the way they are discipling people and the vision of the church lah. So I just left. So after that, I was actually churchless for 20 odd months from like 2018 all the way until almost 2019, the end of 2019. Okay, but I was still in Christian industry lah. Okay, I was still working as a Christian minister. So maybe that's why I also don't have the urgency to find a spiritual community to settle down in. Okay, so during this period is when I felt like God was doing some restoration in my understanding of Christian community and fellowships lah. Okay, but I still didn't want to be part of a big church. At the same time, I was with my ex, and she wanted me to go to a church which I really didn't like. So in the end, then I knew that if I go to another church, then she'll be upset. And then I was like, forget it lah, don't go lah. Okay, and anyway, I was in a job where I had to go and sell books, Christian books at churches. So actually, I go to churches often as a traveling salesman. So I said, okay lah, I still got to go service. They said, okay, forget it. And then I was still growing, but not like in a more systematic way. I just like, run around in this spiritual wilderness, and just whatever happens, happens. Okay. So eventually I came with a dear CF friend, which I kept in touch. He's the same guy I invested money with. Okay, he's a very dear friend. So I eventually, after I broke up, the first thing I did was, bro, I want to go to your church. They said, okay. So I went there, and it's not the most welcoming church, but I welcome myself to the church, and now I'm there. Okay. So I think the first part, right, I had quite a hard time adjusting to the place. Quite I said they're not very welcoming. I'm not big church usually a little more warm. Okay, not that they're not warm, but they're just like need to warm up first. Okay, and then the way I happen to be in a CG where even my pastor calls them, they're pretty cerebral. I say, yeah, they are, and I'm definitely not. So it was really hard. But eventually I found what I call a lifelong friends candidates. Okay, like my current CG is becoming a part of my life that like I would never trade for anything. And even this year, I led YA camp, as in the first camp we had as a church in the YA, young adults. Like we had it like I stay over one those 3 day 2 night, okay, in Singapore. So I was the camp commandant, and I had to not just plan program but also run the session. So I need to talk like what I'm doing now, and I got the two most crucial slot. The intro slot where you are gonna tell people about the team and what we're doing. And then the response, the altar calls night slot lah. So I was like, those are the make or break of the how people remember the camp lah. So I was really stressed, and actually I was not like the most devoted like CG member lah or go service. But I think my pastor trusted me, and we went on with it. And at the end of the camp, right, the first thing, like usually they have affirm all the people who serve, that kind of thing. So this is what I learned in Christian ministry. If they say bad thing first, means it's good. If they say good thing first, means it's bad. So the first thing he said was, Sean, when we first had the CamCom meeting, he was 20 minutes late for the first CamCom meeting. Everybody stared, where's Sean? Don't know. So I was like, oh, because he said that, then I know, okay, that means gotta be good things already. Yeah, after he said a lot of good things, I was like, oh. Okay, so I think this spiritual family is like something that I think was pretty dear to me, because my family live overseas basically. So I am generally have an absent family. So when it was hard to understand what a family is, and being in my previous church, I thought that was spiritual family, but then I realized that was not a family that I grew up with. It feels more like an orphanage than a family, where people do be there for a season, but one day they will all go their own ways. And therefore, when I was in this church, I understood this CG, and I'll be seeing them for the rest of my life, more or less. They'll be there forever, eternally. And I felt, oh, that was what family is. So I think it's it's hard to describe but like it's also another blessing that I didn't expect when I first graduated, then left my own church. I never expected to find a family. I just expected to find another church. Okay, so these are generally 3 stories that I have. And therefore, I think the conclusion I wanted to say to you all is that none of this came easy. Okay, whether it's understanding, making money a servant instead of master, realizing that God is the one who is going to make me whole, and at the same time the finding a spiritual family to call home, to call home church. I think nowadays can easy. Okay, I'm of course proud to claim credit lah. Okay, like I'm an obedient kid lah. Okay, not always, but at least some of this part. I mean, I bother finding a church. That's one. I bother listening to God when He tells me what to do in the relationship. And I also, when I realize money is having a toll on my life, I also look at other blessings in my life to know that God is good. Okay, so I have some credit lah. Okay, but at the end of the day, it is in the end God's undeserved mercies for me lah. Okay, I mean, I did not take great ownership over all these things lah. Okay, I just did what seems logical. Okay, in the human eyes, and actually in the end, a lot of kings and kings, but in the end, I got here lah. 5 years, 6 years since I graduated. Okay, 5, not 6. Okay, and therefore I formed this new rule to live by in this time and age as a 30-year-old man. Okay, rule number 1: the more I involve God in my everyday life, the easier it is to put myself on the altar as a living sacrifice. If I listen to God about today, instead of like, if I listen to God once a day instead of once a month, it's much easier to obey lah, whatever you want to say lah. Okay. Secondly, the more I place myself on the altar, the more I understand God's will and way with me lah. The more I go there, God, have your way, like, and then things happen. And then, okay, that's God's way for me. Oh, this is what God intended for me. Okay, I get it. And I think that helps me to obviously be more willing to be there lah. And lastly, the less resistance I am when I'm on the altar. Okay, I don't go to, okay lah, sacrifice me lah, kill me lah, do whatever you want lah. I mean, I don't talk like that lah, but sometimes that's our attitude lah. Okay lah, you want me die? Okay, but I die for you. You know, you become like a bit angsty and like agitated about it. So the less resistant I am on the altar, the more I'm blessed. Because they say, hey, why you make life difficult for yourself? Just lie down there, chill. Okay, and I'm blessed to be a blessing. That's definitely true. I receive the blessing, but also be blessed to be a partaker of His purposes lah. So I don't just get blessed, but like it's not through the material gains or the things I want that I'm blessed, but also like, hey, God, in the end I'm involved here. Wow, I can say that, oh, I build a kingdom together with you. Oh, God, you let me see things that I would never otherwise see unless I'm serving with you and for you. So I think that is something that all Christians would, when you receive it, it keeps you going for another year, another day. Like that, the fire of God in you. Not easy, but worth it. Okay, so these are my 3 rules. I mean, you have your own, but generally these ones I found through these few years lah. Doesn't mean, of course, it's a rule lah, but I think we are all rule breakers. Okay, doesn't mean I always adhere them. Sometimes I just like, I don't want to, what like that. I don't care. But at least I know if I do this formula, life, my walk with God is secure lah. Okay, so when we say, the final part of the verse, we want to say that, we attest and prove that God's will is good, pleasing, and perfect. Okay, actually, at the end of the day, it's not something we ever know lah. Okay, we will never say tomorrow, God's will tomorrow is gonna be good, pleasing, perfect. Quite hard lah. Probably something you can't tell. Is this really good, pleasing, perfect? Doesn't feel like it. I don't think so. But it's something we should try to use as a blurb, meaning when you're describing this to yourself and to your people around you. It's also the caption lah. When you're in the midst of it, it's like, I want to say that this is good, pleasing, and perfect. Or sometimes you may in fact feel like that, not all the time, but yet we still want to attribute that this is good, pleasing, and perfect. And lastly is the feedback of our lives, meaning when we look back and we tell somebody else about what God has done to us in the last 10 years, for example, we'll probably be able to say, yeah, actually on hindsight, it is truly good, pleasing, and perfect. Okay. Before, during, and after. Okay. It is by faith that we use these 3 words lah: good, pleasing, and perfect. It's not so easy to use. Okay. Okay. So whether you're starting out in your journey now, you're in the midst of the transition journey, or you're looking back at things that's happened before, you can be assured lah. Okay, one thing that is God is with you in the midst of it all, and He is for you. Okay, I want to say this again: God is in the midst of what you're going through, and He is for you. It's very easy to say that, yet like how it's also very hard to believe that when you are there lah, when things are going wrong, it's God in the midst of it. If you can say yes, please, yes it is, right? Then it'll be better lah. Okay, but sometimes it's very hard to say. Is it for you? He may be in the midst of you, maybe next to you, but what if it's not for you? They're going there to poke you at the side, to disturb you. If you think like that, then also it's very hard lah, because you can't trust God. You say, God, you must don't be there lah. At least I can take care of myself. So I think it's very hard, especially in transition where everything is chaotic, right? To say that, oh, this thing is good, pleasing, and perfect. Or that thing that happened last month was good, pleasing, and perfect. Oh, the next month I change job, I go to a new place, or I meet someone new. It's going to be good, pleasing, perfect. Oh, very hard to say, right? Therefore, there's a lot of work to be done to get there, okay? To know that these are GPP, and at the same time that God is there, and God is not just there, but that God is there for you. Okay, it's very hard, but we'll get there. Okay, with time. Okay, in the end, Jesus, whom you have walked with for all these years, you have seen, right? His work in your hands, his work in your lives. Also been touched by okay, he has healed you, he has comforted you, he has held your hand. Okay, at the end of the day, right? This is our hope that he is God's good, pleasing, and perfect will for our lives. Okay, so if this is the Jesus that we will follow and worship, then let us be the same kind of living sacrifice, right? It's not easy, lah. I thought until like that, you all can tell, right? It's not easy. But that's just how transition is supposed to be beautiful, lah. Okay, so we talk so much, but in the end, so I want to go back to like why we are doing this ministry, and hopefully you find us to be a way of God's assurance to you that this journey is doable and meaningful. Okay, so here in the Young Grad Ministry in C2C, okay, we want to do a few things. We want to support you, and we want to support you by encouraging you, graduates, to remember that God has put you in the workplace in your life for such a time as this. Because sometimes you say, oh, who put you there? Society, need to find a job. But no, it's actually God. And I think it is very easy to forget that. Sometimes when you just are angry, want to change job, or feel very bullied at work, then like, why am I here? Why am I? Is it I choose a stupid job? Did I choose the wrong degree? It is very easy to think of that. And therefore, I want to say, no. You are there. Sure, maybe by your own application, but also because God wants to put you there for some reason. Okay. Or maybe he didn't, but then you insist. Okay. At the same time, we also want to say that, hey, we don't just want you to be there, but we also want to provide you with like tools and resources and perspectives to be there as a sword and light. Okay, Christian is meant to be head and not the tail. So even if you're the tail, be the head of the tail. Meaning that don't be there and be like a defeated person. Okay, because we are carrying the light of Christ, his ambassadors. Okay, so we want to remember that and also equip you to live that out. Okay, and thirdly, I think what is important to us, you want to build resilience in you all. Okay, so resilience is in some people may think that, oh, it's jadedness, when you can say, oh, I'm unbreakable, nothing can break me, I can do all things. No, I don't think that's resilience, because at some level, that if you lose your childlikeness alongside while building resilience, then you're not not wholesome, right? So in the end, we Christians, we are able to withstand the pressures of the world. We are able to be patient in waiting upon God's move. But at the same time, we also say that God is going to move. God is going to be here. God's kingdom will come. And I think when we combine that like endurance and that childlikeness, okay, then that is what we mean by resilience. And I think it's very hard to build this on your own, because you always be stretched beyond your limit, beyond what you think is your limit. And therefore, you need a community, not just to like sayang you, but pray for you, encourage you, and also share and teach you. And I think that's what we want to do here. Okay, lastly, I think we want to emphasize the importance of being rooted in Christian communities. Okay, I think I've seen many friends who like they just isolate themselves for whatever reasons when life gets hard. And then when they come out of it years later, sometimes months, sometimes years, then they say, oh, this happened to me. Say, hey, what you never say? Wow, that time very tired. Then you're like, but if you told me I could have supported you, you know. That time no energy to ask for support. Then it's like, huh? Like, what they say is, of course, relatable, right? I mean, all of us understand what that means. But at the same time, you in your sane mind, who is not fatigued and stressed, will say that's not a very smart way of doing things. Right? It's like, why you want to take soup with your own hands when you can just take the ladle? Say, oh, the ladle very far in the kitchen. I say, how far is it? 10 meters far. Cannot walk, man. Oh, very tired that day. Can't even take a step. You know, it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. Okay, so I think when we are here, we want to say the Christian community, we are not here just like in the good times, but here we are bad times. We are here for you when you need, and you're also here to be needed by somebody to support them. And therefore, that's what Christian community looks like. Okay. It's not a magical pill. But at the same time, it can also be a magical pill. And therefore, we hope that through this program where you may not have the energy to ask people out, want to hang out, want to exercise together, then we ask you, hey, are you coming this month? Then you join small group. Let's meet. Then you just okay lah. You just okay lah. Okay lah. I turn up lah. Okay, I don't have to plan. I just turn up. Turn up, do what? Never mind. We'll tell you. Okay, you don't have to stress. Okay, so that's how we want to remind you to be rooted in Christian community and also in church lah. Okay. Okay, so having said that, that's all I have actually. I want to give you some admin instructions, and then we'll just have a short time of discussion and prayer, and then we are done. Okay. So the next session we will be on work. I think most of you have seen the C2C PowerPoint slide, right? The one with the orange words, right? Okay, so you can see a lot of details there. So I won't belabor. Okay, so the next time we'll be on work. Okay, so we will send you the notes for that session beforehand. Okay, then so how we envision the notes to be is that they are basically what we think is important for you to learn within the 1 year of work. Okay, and then when you come for the session, we will not be going through the notes, but we will invite some alumni to share on their journeys and experiences, and we will ask them to share loosely based on the points in the notes lah. So it might not be like exactly one-on-one, but because they might also bring their own insights. But our hope is that through their sharing, you get a picture of what it might look like. But through the notes, you are able to directly make some changes or updates to your life in that area lah. Okay. I'll suggest you read the notes before or skim through at least. But if you decide to read it after that, it also works, I guess. Okay. And also please indicate if you want to sign up for the small group. So we need to make a small group according to the schedule and also like your venue lah. Okay. So we need some time. Hopefully, if you all think this is suitable, then please come. So what happens as a small group is that you have one facile and like 3 or 4 of you, and then you will discuss the topic. We have some activity for you to do lah. Okay, but at the same time, it's also a place where you just, hey, how's life? Oh, what are you going through? So you don't have to only share things related to the topic lah. We are not so dogmatic lah. Okay, because life happens all together at once. So we will talk about just life updates, about things that are happening that matters to you. We'll try to do some processing together at the small groups lah. Okay. So please keep this link, take picture or something. C2C small group. Okay, it's pretty memorable or not. Okay, so the last thing I want to say is that what we do is really good stuff. Okay. Maybe it's because of it's cold and you're underground, there's no sun, man, it looks a bit dreary. But no worries. Next session we are going to FES where there's some sun. But I want to say is that what we do is really good stuff. Okay, it will highly reduce the chance of you having a quarter life crisis in a few years. Highly likely. Okay, recently I met a friend at like some random void deck. And then, hey, how are you? Like, oh, I never see her since I graduated. So she's like 2 years younger than me. So I never see her for very long. And then the first thing she said, oh, Sean, I want to die. I said, what happened? I have a quarter life crisis. Why? How? Yeah, too many things to say. Then I said, oh, well, that's what happens like when you don't see your friends for a few years. Okay, and she didn't come for my thing. Okay, so not to brag, I want to say that this really helped because, as I mentioned, work and life happens so fast that we don't often process it properly. And when we do, we usually just talk to ourselves and God lah. But the input of the Christian community can make a lot of difference. Okay, so please come. Please invite your friends from anywhere to join. Okay, so they don't have to be fresh grad. Okay, well, we call this a fresh grad thingy, but actually it's not really it's relevant to more than just fresh grad lah. Okay, so anyone within 0 to 3 years is still very relevant to be here lah. Okay, and you have friends who are a bit older than that, we also have other things. Okay, so you can talk to me, you can find out more about me. I mean, find out more from me. Sorry. Okay, so that's that. Do you have any questions? Okay, great. So you have already taken down the link. Then we'll just go to the discussion questions. Okay, so these are the 3 that I've thought about that maybe you can share heartily. Okay, after this, we'll probably head for lunch together, so feel free to join us. Yeah, but we'll take around maybe until about 10 more minutes. We can discuss this and then we'll wrap up in prayer. Okay. So what is one nagging question you have about your transition? Okay, so this is you can ask anything. And what do you think God is answering your question with? How is He telling you about it? And next one is your hope in God. It's a very big question. But I want to say is like, I mean, most of us would say yes, but like, what does that mean? Oh yeah, my hope is in God. What are you hoping for? How will you get it? How is that hope in God rather than in getting that thing or in you getting that thing? Okay. And lastly, is that like, is there anything you wish you can reject or not go through? What kinds is that something you really dislike, super dislike about this, but you know it's part of the journey. So why? Maybe you actually can reject it. Maybe. Okay. Yeah. So feel free. You can ask any of these questions in your discussion group. Okay. Go ahead.